make some noise. Come on.
Yeah, yes, indeedy, Nick Foles. Let's make some noise, indeed. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the Rap Sports Network on this lovely Monday night with your boy MattyB on the call. And I'm doing something I haven't done in a while. That's actually come back on 2 nights. You should really feel special here that I've sort of grabbed hold of my schedule, at least for the week, to be able to come out here and be and actually deliver as advertised. So I'm glad to be back. Good night here. Phillies with a win, 4-0. Come home after some positives by taking that 2 out of 3 from the Braves. They were able to ride once again another dominant starting pitching effort, this time by the ace himself, Zach Wheeler, to a 4-0 win. And securing win number 50 on the season. Strengthening the argument, though, is the offense did enough tonight. Listen, this is pretty much the model of what it looks like when it works right. When this team is working right, this is what you should expect. The offense did enough. They scored some runs, 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They could have scored more. They did not. But on a night when you had Zach Wheeler doing what Zach Wheeler's been doing all season and over since the last 3 seasons, really, you didn't need all 4 of those runs. You needed 1. But the Phillies gave him some insurance. They did do enough offensively, and they rode themselves into victory. So this is what it looks like when it's working. Now, we've seen it when it's not, and it's a lot of times it's not working when they're not scoring any runs, but still getting dominant pitching. But tonight was the effort that was needed, both by the offense and the starting pitching, to a 4-0 win. And we'll obviously continue the conversation about the Phillies if you like. We also broke ice on the Flyers draft last night, sort of kind of went into that a little bit. Well, I guess we went into it more than a little bit. We went over the players. I gave you my assessment of the draft in itself. I believe that it was the right draft. It's hard. It's very hard at the NHL side of things to kind of pinpoint drafts. It really is. There's players that are bona fide generational talents, go number 1, number 2, and they don't work out. There's players that are taken in the 7th round that become the next biggest thing since sliced bread. And then there's the in-between guys. And the one common thread about the NHL draft is, after you get past by like pick 4, everybody else is pretty much a development project. So the Flyers did what they had to do with a lot of draft assets, moving some draft assets along to move up in the draft, back in the draft, whatever they had to do. And they picked 9 players that they probably hope at least 3 of those 9, are significant parts of their future. And if 3 of those 9 are, then it was a successful draft for the Flyers. But time will tell on the NHL draft. It's not an overnight process. It's nothing like the NFL draft or the NBA draft. It's a wait and see type of thing. So the draft for the Flyers is in the books. And then we have a draft coming up here in a couple weeks. The NBA draft is over. The NFL draft is over. So that leaves one, and that's the MLB draft, which will take place over All-Star Weekend in Atlanta here in a couple of weeks. And the Phillies, who are slated to pick number 26 overall in the first round, we've painstakingly gone through some of these MLB draft prospects, just like we did the NHL. And tonight, or I started this last week, I guess, and then I'm going to continue it tonight. And we're going to go through a couple of players that I think the Phillies should really seriously consider taking at 26. We talked about the stud catcher from the University of North Carolina, Luke Stevenson, that he's the number 1 catcher on the board, likely will be there at 26. And if the Phillies feel so inclined to sort of replenish the catching position, which they definitely need to do in the organization, he would be a very good draft pick. But we're going to highlight a few other players over the course of the next few nights of where could help the Phillies out in this draft. We're going to talk that. We'll also do our Of the Night segment that we didn't do last night, and we'll do our card review. And, of course, your day in Philadelphia sports history, all those beautiful things that we do on this program night after night, day after day. So let's get it rolling here. Star Wars leading us off tonight saying Kemp stay, Buddy Kennedy, DFA, yeah. I found that kind of interesting, Bryce Harper gone for like 6 weeks. Was it like 6 weeks he was out? Or maybe a month, 3 weeks, month, whatever. No rehab assignment. Not sending him down to AAA. Not sending him to AA. Just kind of taking him off the street cold, inserting him back in the lineup tonight as Bryce Harper made his return. And yes, Otto Kemp, I guess, did enough to sort of impress the Phillies brass. They're going to stick with him for at least a while. Now, the problem with Otto Kemp will be, what do you do with him? You got to play him. He's got to play every day. Otto Kemp has got to play every day. I believe somebody on this program last night mentioned moving Kemp to the outfield. I think it was Joe Hale or Papernick. One of you two mentioned it. I think it's an obvious situation where the Phillies got to look into, because Otto Kemp can't sit on the bench. He can't. He's not that kind of player. And you'd be doing him a disservice. So they got to find a way to get him in the lineup every day, whether or not they're platooning him at third and then in the other days platooning him in left with Kepler or whatever. They got to find a way to keep Kemp in the lineup. But he survived the cut. Bryce Harper's in. Buddy Kennedy's out. DFA'd. Wasn't he DFA for the second time so far this year? Does he pass through waivers? Does he accept a minor league assignment? Is his days with the Phillies over? All those things will be told here in the next 24 hours. So Buddy Kennedy out, Bryce Harper back, and Otto Kemp lives to tell the tale another day. So obviously we can talk that as Star Wars checking in. Joe Hale says, hey, everybody. Joe, how are you? Good to see you again, as you said, as you do every night. I did say play Kemp. Yeah, I mean, listen, if it's a situation where now he survived. Otto Kemp's here. Now what are you going to do with him? You can't leave him on the bench, man. You can't. You got to find a way to get him in the lineup. And because you'd be doing him a disservice. He's the kind of guy that's sort of scratching the surface of his major league abilities, and you got to keep him in there. If you platoon him in left and platoon him at third, I'm okay with that. You got to find a way to keep Otto Kemp in the lineup every day so he continues to develop as a Major League Baseball player. Leaving him on the bench makes no sense to me. You might as well just send him back down to the minors and kept Buddy Kennedy on the bench, because I just don't see the reasoning around keeping Otto Kemp at this level if you're not going to play him every day. And you could have saved yourself a DFA with Buddy Kennedy, because Kemp's got options. Kennedy doesn't. So why would you do that and not find a way to play Otto Kemp every day? So we'll see how they come out on that. Hey, Dave, what's up, man? Are you surprised that they left in Wheeler after throwing over 100 pitches? To me, that's gambling the manager letting him go over 100. No, Dave, I'm not. I'm actually happy they did. Let me explain what I mean. I'm so tired of this soft-ass culture of baseball. This soft-ass, wrapping the pitchers and the players in bubble wrap and praying to God they don't get hurt. I understand your point. It is a gamble. But you know what? No one ever really was concerned about Nolan Ryan, Steve Carlton, those guys pitching over 100. I mean, and he pitched 107 pitches over 8 innings. I can live with that. I can absolutely 100% live with that. That's called baseball, man. And I say that in tongue in cheek because I hate that expression. I think it's a coward's way out, and I think it's a homer's way out to say, "Oh, that's baseball." But that's baseball. 100 pitches, man, in 8 innings. So I hear what you're saying, and I did mention this last night as well. The Phillies are the Phillies. The offense is not getting fixed in season. They're not going to revamp the offense, and all of a sudden this thing's all going to click. In 3 years. We've been waiting for 3 years for it to click, and it's not going to click this year. Will they mix and match and bring some bats in? Probably, yes. But they're not going to overhaul the offense. So this MO, strong, dominant starting pitching, and praying to God that the offense finds a way to score something at night and in these games to give them some runs, is what this team is in 2025. Now, hopefully, when we get to the offseason, they rethink all this, and then we maybe make some major changes to the offense, but those major changes are not coming in 2025. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And a lot of people are probably like, well, the hell with this then, because it ain't going to work. I understand those feelings, but this is what the team is. And I know there's a gamble what Dave is saying here. You got the strong, dominant pitching, but you got to be careful not to tax it out. And you got to be careful also not to get these guys hurt. I get that. But the other side of the old school MattyB coin is, the hell with them, man. Let him throw over 100 damn pitches. He threw them in 8 innings. It wasn't like he labored through 5 or 6 innings and he threw 98 pitches or 100, whatever. He threw 107 over 8 innings. That is an old school day's work. And, maybe 107 is a little too much, but I'm okay with it. Absolutely okay with it. Now, you could also look at the bullpen issues too. They want to try to limit their bullpen. But that's what Zach Wheeler's paid all that money to do, is to pitch deep in the games and the elevated pitch counts, and he spread it out nicely, and he did it in over 8 innings. I'm okay with it, but I see your point there, Dave. I do. I absolutely do. But I also see the MO of this team, and the MO is dominant starting pitching, and pray to God you get something from the offense. I think Crawford comes up soon, I believe, after the trade deadline. That would be nice. That would be nice. Why do we got to wait to the trade deadline? I know there was a lot of talk about the Crawford thing, and I personally felt that the reason why they weren't bringing him up earlier in the season was because of the service time. They wanted to save another year of that, but they've already gone past that threshold of time. June 15th, I think, was the time frame that now you can bring up minor league pitcher players now since June 15th, and then this year will not count towards the year of service time. So, I thought that that's what they were waiting for. Well, we've long passed June 15th. We're about to hit July tomorrow. So the question about Justin Crawford and why is he not up and why is he not with this team right now, it is an interesting one. It's a very interesting question. And I don't know the answer to it. I have some theories around it, and I honestly believe that the one theory I'm dying on the hill with when it comes to Justin Crawford is bringing him up would be an admission of one of the worst trades in Philadelphia Phillies history that occurred under Dave Dombrowski's watch by sending a catching prospect, a major league ready catching prospect, and Logan O'Hoppe to the Angels for friggin' Brandon Marsh. And I think bringing Justin Crawford up and essentially signifying the end of the Brandon Marsh experiment would be a slap in the face to that. And maybe Dave Dombrowski's not ready to swallow his medicine when it comes to that. And maybe he's just trying to hold out day by day, every day, praying to God Brandon Marsh flips the switch and turns the corner because he got a save face. And on the MattyB all-time worst trades in Phillies history tracker, I got that as my number 4 in the history of the franchise. Brandon Marsh for Logan O'Hoppe. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'm thinking maybe that is it. But other than that, I don't know why he's not up right now. Maybe give Harper a day off sometime first and keep playing and play Kemp there. Bohm a day off, play him there. Kemp can hit righty. So there's got to be a way to work him into the lineup. But Star Wars, remember last night, and I think you were tuned in when I talked about one of the problems with this organization right now, or one of the problems with this team when it comes to trying to find consistency with the offense, is trying to find consistency within the lineup. And that is having the same players play every day. The Phillies are one of the worst teams in all of baseball when it comes to letting players play together over a long stretch of time. Yeah, they're letting Nick Castellanos play pretty much a season and a half by himself, but they're constantly mixing and matching that lineup. They're constantly moving people in and out of that. They're constantly rotating people out of the leadoff spot. By the way, tonight, Trey Turner has tied Bryson Stott with 37 leadoff appearances this season. They have now tied. He's tied Bryson Stott. So that tells you the model of inconsistency when it comes to the lineup, all the mixing and matching and shifting people around. So the double-edged sword with keeping Otto Kemp in the lineup is, once again, you're going to have to constantly move around this lineup and try to get him in the lineup and not try. And I think it's a big problem when it comes to the rhythm issues with this team and the offensive inconsistency is that they don't have an opportunity to get into a routine with themselves. They don't feel comfortable batting in a spot in a lineup or playing in a spot in the lineup every day because they're not doing that. And I think that's one of the issues that plague this team right now, as well as the bullpen without roles or closer by committee nonsense. We've tried everything else to try to get this team out of its funk, leaving people in the lineup for extended periods of time. Signing roles to the bullpen seems to be the last thing we could try. And I honestly believe that that is an issue here. But again, if you want to keep Kemp playing, you're going to have to keep doing that. So it's a double-edged sword, I guess. Ryan, how are you? This guy, the great dominant starting pitching is going to be wasted by inconsistent, streaky offense. Yeah, I mean, that's the MO, Ryan. I mean, I came to terms with that yesterday. I think a lot of Phillies fans are slowly but surely coming to terms with this, that this is what this team is. They are a dominant. They got one of the best, if not the best, starting rotation in all the game, but they're backing that up with one of the worst one of the more inconsistent, one of the more streaky offenses. And that's just what they are. And they're not fixing that in season. That's just not going to happen. Dave Dombrowski is riding this thing until it cannot be ridden anymore. And it is what it is. Maybe in 2026, we can relook this thing and maybe change the offense or change some of the pieces. But right now, there ain't nothing going to be changing in 2025. And this is what it is. We need the pitching to continue to be dominant. And we got to pray to God that somehow the offense can figure it out. So, but I agree with you, though. I think Crawford isn't up because they don't want to waste his option. He's not going to play often and stay. Yeah, I think that goes back to my theory around the stupid trade. I think Dombrowski, by sending Crawford up, would have to is an admittance that, you know what, I screwed up the Logan O'Hoppe deal. I really messed that up, and I traded away an asset in Logan O'Hoppe, who, one, we could use right now, desperately. We could use him right now. We're getting some major thunderstorms outside. Wow, that was pretty loud. We could use that option. And I think it's an admittance of guilt that he screwed up, and maybe he doesn't want to put his business out there. I don't know. Logan O'Hoppe was ready to start. He was going to be held back by JT. He wasn't going to be okay to film. I disagree. 100%. Logan O'Hoppe was plucked out of Double-A in 2022 when he was traded. There was nothing that could say that O'Hoppe could have finished out 2022 playing in Double-A, played 23 in Triple-A, and then you could have brought him up as the backup last year, and you could have platooned him with JT. I disagree with that, Ryan, 100%. Everyone seems to think Logan O'Hoppe was scratching at the door down in AAA. He never even made it to AAA. They took him out of AA. So he was rising up the ladder, and he was dominating at AA. But to sit here and say he was this, ready to play MLB prospect, I disagree with. He was a prospect. Now the Angels, when they got him, they had no other options, so they put him in. Then he got hurt. They missed a significant period of time, which would have helped us out because, to get us to this point. So I disagree 100% with you. Logan O'Hoppe was not ready to play. He was in Double-A. He could have played like the Angels did, but it wasn't like he was knocking the door down saying, I got to play today. So I don't feed me that bullcrap. They could have sat on O'Hoppe for a couple more years easily. And yes, platooning him right now would be fine with me. I would much rather have O'Hoppe than Marchand as the backup. And I sure as hell much would have rather had O'Hoppe than Garrett Stubbs as my backup. So don't feed me that line of BS, man. And I hate when people say that to me. He was ready to play. No, he wasn't ready to start. He wasn't. He was in Double-A. Kepler can't even hit anybody. Kepler's a terrible, terrible gamble. All right, guy stinks, man. And I had faith in Max Kepler, man. I so wanted it to work out. Maybe we can get Austin Hayes back. He's having a good year for Cincinnati. All right, let's go into our day in Philadelphia sports history. It is brought to you today on this network by the fine folks that give you, for all you Union and MLS fans, the soccer guys on the attacking third, Pat Bernard and Steve Fuentes, every Thursday at 9 on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. So make sure you're checking it out. And a side note, before I deliver the day in Philadelphia sports history, I heard today through Keith Pompey that the city of Philadelphia has been awarded a WNBA franchise and that they will begin play in the 2030 season. And then I got to thinking, that's right. Philadelphia never had a WNBA. How the hell does Philadelphia not have has never had a WNBA franchise? I was always wondering about that. But for all you WNBA fans out there, fear not. The future is here. The city of Philadelphia has been awarded a WNBA franchise that will begin play in the summer. I guess, is that when their season begins? In 2030. So, and they will play at the Xfinity Live Center down there in South Philadelphia. So, congratulations to the WNBA franchise that's coming to Philadelphia. Yeah. If you guys are into that. So let's go to our day in Philadelphia sports history. Interesting day. In a day that I, of course, 100% remember, and a day that sent a crossroads for two different organizations in the world of hockey. On this day back in 1992, the Flyers traded Steve Duchesne, Peter Forsberg, Ron Hextall, Kerry Huffman, Mike Ricci, Chris Simon, 2 first-round picks, and $15 million of cash to the Quebec Nordiques in return for the draft rights to Eric Lindros. A trade that would send one franchise scrambling to try to catch Stanley Cup glory in the Flyers, and another franchise, after they moved to Colorado, would set them up for multiple Stanley Cup championships in the 1990s as the Colorado Avalanche. And it was on this day that trade occurred. Eric Lindros today on June 30th, 1992, traded to the Flyers. And I think since that day, and we can look at this thing through different sides of the lens, Eric Lindros, a Hall of Famer, an all-time centerman, a great player. His number is retired by the Flyers, but if you think about it and you do the math, I don't know, Peter Forsberg would have been nice here as well. And we would have kept all those assets, all that money, and we would have potentially been a Stanley Cup champion ourselves. But when you had an opportunity to scoop up a generational talent, a man who would, he was hyped up to redefine the game. I don't know if he redefined the game, and I don't put him in the same level as Wayne Gretzky. There was a time, though, a short period of time, about 3 or 4 years, that he was the most dominant player in the league. But the Flyers really failed to put much of a supporting cast around him. And, of course, Peter Forsberg would go on to have a Hall of Fame career of his own. But to have Steve Duchesne, Peter Forsberg, Mike Ricci playing in orange and black, I don't know, man. Would we have? And then you throw John LeClair into that mix too, Eric Desjardins. Telling you, man, I don't know. I don't know. I'd love to go back in time and play out that scenario and not make that trade. I really would. But then again, if we did that, that means he would go to the Rangers, because that was the other team that allegedly had agreed to a trade with him. Remember that whole debacle where they had to have an arbitrator come in and do a supplementary draft to find out whose rights the Flyer that he was owned by. So I don't know if the trade-off of keeping all those assets and not trading Lindros, and then having Lindros ultimately get traded to the Rangers, I don't know how that would have worked, but I would like to see it. I would like to go back into the Bizarro universe and see how that would work out for the Flyers if we didn't go after Lindros and the Rangers did, and we kept all those assets that we sent to Quebec/Colorado in return. So on this day, the trade heard round the world, the Eric Lindros trade, the Flyers sending multiple assets and money to the Quebec Nordiques for the rights to Eric Lindros. So there you go, your day in Philadelphia sports history. I remember the Peter Forsberg becoming a Flyer. Yes, he did, but he came here, had all kinds of problems with his feet. Still was a pretty dominant player for 1 year he was here, but when he played. I mean, was Peter Forsberg a better player than Lindros? I mean, they both their careers ended due to injury. We did get Peter Forsberg back, and then we were able to flip Forsberg to Nashville. Wasn't it for Timonen and Hartnell? Wasn't that the trade that kind of remade the Flyers a little bit? Or something like that? Or we flipped Forsberg to Nashville for their first-round draft pick. And then we flipped that back to Nashville for Hartnell and Timonen. I think that's how it went down. So maybe it all worked out. I don't know. But again, in some alternate universe, I would love to have seen what it was like not to have traded Eric Lindros. Or traded for Eric Lindros. So there you go. There's your day in Philadelphia sports history. Again, brought to you by the fine folks here at the It's a Wrap Sports Network, who bring you great programming like the P&M and the AM program every Sunday morning at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. Mike Lauro, Pat Bernard come at you with their brand of Philadelphia sports, as confusing as it might be at times. And I know it is. Trust me, I listen. And I don't know what ends up a lot with those two, but I shouldn't say with those two. Mike's pretty consistent. Pat is not. So make sure you're checking out everything over on that fine program every Sunday morning at 9 p.m. or 9 a.m. 9 a.m. here on the network. So kind of put the cherry on the top of the Phillies game, 4-0 win. Again, the offense did enough. Castellanos homered, but the story of the night is the pitching of Zach Wheeler. 8 full straight innings, 6 hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts, no homers, and no walks. 107 pitches through 8 innings. His ERA is now down to a robust 2.27. And yes, is he a lock for the All-Star game as we get close to that? The Phillies sent, 8 last year? They're not going to send 8 this year. So who is your All-Stars for the Phillies? Is Trey Turner done enough to get an All-Star bidding? Kyle Schwarber done enough? I think Zach Wheeler has done enough. Luzardo was on his way of doing enough, then he kind of fell off a cliff. Who are your All-Stars this year for Philadelphia? Is it just Zach Wheeler, or is it Wheeler and Schwarber? Is it Wheeler, Schwarber, Turner? Is it somebody else I'm missing? But I think that if Wheeler does not get the nod, that would be a travesty of justice. There's really not been a pitcher, of course, throughout this season who's just been straight dominant every time he goes out on the mound. 8-3 now in the season. I was kind of taken back by that too. I was wondering why he only has 8 wins. I mean, doesn't it seem like he should have more than that? But it would be a complete snub, punch in the gut, all that if Wheeler is not a Hall of Famer, is not a member of the All-Star team. And then, of course, we can talk Schwarber and Turner as well, having themselves an All-Star type season. So interesting. So is Pat going to wrap up? Is Pat going to wrap up show this coming Friday with? Yes, we are on full speed ahead. I'm going to say yes. There's been no talk to me. No one's mentioned it to me. No one's asked me. And no one's done anything. So I am going to assume that we are full steam ahead for 4th of July. We will do the Fighters final in the afternoon, Phillies Reds, and we will come back with the wraparound in the evening. I run a tight ship over here, God damn it. I don't care about your stupid little holiday. Get to work. Bills got to get paid, and I don't care what day of the week it is. Now, I don't know. No one's asked me, but if you can't, I understand. But as far as I know, we are doing it. Again, I run a tight ship. But all right, Phillies with the win. So with the Phillies win, 50 wins now on the season. We are deep into the second half. They finished the month of June over 500, folks. Yes, there was some concern. I had concern heading into this game because with the loss, the Phillies would have finished the game under. But with the win, they finished 14-13 for the month of June. Not a great month. Not a very uninspiring month. New lows, some new highs, but mainly new lows. And again, if you take out the 19-9 May, which was domination, the Phillies have only been able to maintain or muster up 3-1 in the month of March, 14-12 in April, and now 14-13 in June. You take out 1 month, this is a whole different looking baseball team. What concerns of those do you have? You're riding the coattails of a 19-9 May, much like they did last year. But another just about or a little bit over 500 month for this club, as now we get ready for the month of July. And then this is when it starts getting interesting, man. I mean, as well as I know, we're going to start talking hardcore. It's not early anymore, man. It's certainly not early anymore. And now these games are really going to start meaning something. Can the Phillies afford another 14-13 month, or do you need to see something from this team in July resembling a World Series contender? MattyB has his own little internal checklist when it comes to a baseball season. March and April, it's all about finishing a little bit above 500 or at 500, staying healthy. May is all about kind of building off some momentum or gaining some momentum, which they did. And then June, July are months that you're supposed to separate yourself from the rest. June and July is when you assert yourself over weaker opponents. They did not do that in June. They came right back down to the pack. So as we move into July, what do you need to see from this team? Do you need to see more Wins, obviously. I mean, are you concerned about the quality of wins, or you just want the quantity of wins? Are those is that what the problem is now, or how do you look at this? And does it matter? Is it a win? Is a win? Is a win? Or you know what? They won, but they were 2 for 9 with runners in scoring position. They won, but they won it on the heels of dominant starting pitching, and I'm concerned that that's not going to last all the way out to October. Or are you just like, I don't give a damn, they won? And the wins in itself, do we need to see another 19-9 May from this team in July? Are you getting concerned that they don't have another like speed to like shift down into? So July is not going to be a cakewalk either. There's some decent opponents awaiting this team in July, a West Coast trip as well. So things are about to get real. And are the Phillies ready? Are the Phillies ready? The All-Star game does fall on my birthday this year. Plus, Face softball team will be at the Nationals in Jackson, New Jersey the same week. Can I get a shout out? Delco Outlaws. Great job, Delco Outlaws. Heading to the softball Nationals. Is that a school team? Or is it like a travel team? I don't know how softball works. But congratulations to the Delco Outlaws. I think the Phillies All-Stars are going to be Wheeler, Ranger, Schwarber, and Turner. I didn't mention Ranger. Has he done enough? I don't know if he's been that lights out, though. He kind of struggled to start the season. I mean, Wheeler hit the ground running. Schwarber's hit the ground running. And Turner's hit the ground running. I mean, you can make a case for Suarez, but I don't know. I think I think the locks on this team are Wheeler and Schwarber, and I don't know if Turner makes it. I honestly don't, but I don't know. Has Ranger done enough? Has he done it enough over a long enough period of time? I know it's 10 quality starts now for him or whatever, but he struggled out the gates. Matter of fact, he came in late because wasn't he dealing with an injury to start the season? So has he done it enough? Time will tell. Time will definitely tell. But we'll wait and see as we get closer to the Midsummer's Classic. And I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to All-Star games, can I start a movement here tonight on the program with all of the faithful listeners of this program? Can I start a movement to do away with the goddamn National League and American League uniforms and go back to these teams wearing their own uniforms for the All-Star game? That is one of the more solid memories of my childhood, of watching these teams, these players come out in their either home or away uniforms, depending on who was hosting. And there was something so like cool about that. And again, it might be because I didn't have the opportunity to watch the Oakland A's play on a daily basis, or the Angels or the Twins or the Mariners, because obviously living in Philadelphia back in the 80s, I'm not tuned in to what's happening out there in the Bay Area, nor do I have the means to do that. So I don't know, maybe it's because of that I just really enjoyed watching and looking and seeing what the road uniforms of the Minnesota Twins looked like in 1985. I don't know, but it just seems so pure. It just seems so right and so baseball for these teams to be wearing their own uniforms during the All-Star game. And then the one year where Pete Rose lost his stuff, his shirt got lost, so he had to wear the warm-up, the maroon red warm-up jersey as his uniform. It was awesome. That was awesome. And I get it. The almighty dollar creates and turns all this, and people are going to cash in on it. But boy, man, I would love for them to go back to that, the old school, wearing their own uniforms again. I really would. So I want to start a movement on this program tonight. Bring back teams wearing their own uniforms at the All-Star game. I said it. Let it be done. But we'll wait and see. But Wheeler, Schwarber, Turner, and is that Joe Hale throws it in there? Joe Hale throws in Ranger Suarez. Interesting get with Ranger. Has he done enough over a long enough period of time this season to get All-Star recognition? So wait and see about that. Next year, the All-Star game is in Philly. It is in 2026 on the 250th anniversary of the birth of this country. Philadelphia is hosting a bunch of stuff next year. Aren't they doing the MLB All-Star game? Isn't the World Cup of soccer here next year? And is the NBA All-Star game in Philly as well? Philadelphia is like the sports destination of 2026 because of the 250th birthday of the country. So that's cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. They're going to host the All-Star game. All right, let's continue with the show, and let's get into some of the night. We didn't do that last night, man, and I was negligent in my duties. So let's get into the other night segment. All right, the other night segment, is obviously the part of the show where we kind of step back. We step back and we take a look at some of the prospects that the Flyers might have, Phillies, some draft targets. We've wrapped up the NHL draft. We've wrapped up Flyers prospects a while ago. So that kind of just leads us right now to some Phillies prospects. We also wrapped up the MLB draft. We've already done that. We've already talked about all these players. So we're going to concentrate solely on Phillies prospects now, probably for the rest of the summer. I ain't gonna lie. We're at that point. So I had to put together the new stuff for next year. Joe says the MLB draft. Yes, because they do it now in conjunction with the All-Star game. Oh, and by the way, Eduardo Tait and Andrew Painter were named to the minor league futures show game that will be held during All-Star weekend too. So the minor leagues don't have their own All-Star game per se. What they do is organizations give up players from all levels, not to include the rookie leagues, but from low A all the way up to triple A, and they give up players and they all get put on a team and they play each other. So you got players playing each other from triple A, double A, single A, and Eduardo Tait, the Phillies catching prospect, and Andrew Painter were selected from the Phillies organization to represent the Phillies in the futures game during All-Star weekend as well. So congratulations to those individuals. Very much well deserved, especially for Tait, who holds this team's catching future in his hands. I mean, good God, we got nothing else, man. But it's good to see that he got the opportunity to get selected. But let's go into our of the night, and we're going to talk Phillies prospect, and we're going to talk a former draft pick from last year. Our first overall pick last year, Dante Nori, the center fielder who has not had himself. The transition's been a little bit more of a struggle for him, as some of the good news stories out there of the Keaton Anthonys of the world rocketing up the system, the Zach Arnolds of the world rocketing up the system. Dante Nori's had a little bit of a slower kind of run through the lower levels. He's currently still with Clearwater. But he entered pro ball with the reputation of having a very advanced approach from the left side of the plate, and he's doing nothing to dampen that evaluation so far. The Phillies thought he could handle a push to the Florida State League, and while it was a small sample, he had a competitive at-bats right out of the chute and walked in better than 24% of his plate appearances. He has a quick swing geared towards contact and a solid two-strike hitter. The next step will be for him to tap into his power. He has the ability to hit the ball harder than he has, registering 100 miles an hour exit velo off the flips of batting practice, and he can start showing he can impact the ball more without sacrificing his hit too. Here's the thing, though. So when he was drafted, so what happens is when this draft happens, it's like right at the end of the rookie league season. Their season ends in late July. So some players get the opportunity to go down and play a few games in rookie leagues, and then they get promoted up, or they don't. Some of these players don't. They're said, no, we're going to stop you right here because you're going to pick up right here where you left off next year. We'll get you into the Winter League in Mexico or Dominican somewhere or whatever. But Nori played a few games with the FCL Phillies and then got promoted right into low A with Clearwater. And he did okay, in his transition. This year it's been a slower run for him. He struggled a little bit, but It is what it is. He's a center fielder. Obviously, with him being a center fielder, and Justin Crawford sort of where he's at, there's time with Adante Nori. There's time to watch him sort of develop slowly, and there's no rush on him. He can spend as many years as he needs down there in the minors, I would say, as we get ready to welcome in the Justin Crawford era, hopefully sooner than later. But yeah, I mean, I was a little thrown when the Phillies selected him last year. I thought they would have went a different direction. There was a pitcher out there that I wanted. They didn't go with. But he kind of came off the board early. He was a projected second-round pick, and the Phillies took him at like 18 or something like that last year. I think they were up there in that range of drafting. And it's been a little bit of a slow for him. But tonight's Phillies prospect, 2024 first-round pick, Dante Nori, as he is struggling a little bit in his transition from college ball to pro ball. So with that being said, let's now talk a little bit about this year's draft. Phillies 26 overall will be picking in Atlanta. They got, I think they got 7 or 8 picks this year. The MLB draft has changed a little bit. It's not 195 rounds anymore. I think it's capped at 20 or something like that. So I think they have like 20 picks, something like that. So at 26 overall, there's going to be a lot of quality there with all these players. And we talked about this last week. We went through all these players, did an overview of them. And then I started to go back through with one of them, at least, Luke Stevenson right here, the catching prospect from the University of North Carolina. The best catcher projected on the board in the first round. He is the best catcher in this draft, essentially. Now, in a team like the Phillies that are so devoid of any kind of catching prospects, you got Eduardo Taillep down there at low A, which I really, really believe he's going to be at high A at any day now. He's on his way to Jersey Shore any day. And then that's it. I'm not lying. That's it. If you're a Jordan Disson fan, I apologize, but I don't see Jordan Disson. He's struggling right now in Double A. Actually, I think Jordan Disson's in high A now. I think he got sent down. There's really nothing there. There's absolutely nothing in the cupboards when it comes to catching in this organization. And if a player like Luke Stevenson is still sitting on the board at 26, I think you seriously have to consider taking him out of just a sense of trying to replenish that position within the organization. We are rolling into a problem with that right now. We're rolling into a situation after this season where a serious conversation is going to have to be held in reference to the future of the position of catcher for the Phillies. JT's a free agent. And then what do you do? Does JT have the Phillies up against the barrel here? Do the Phillies have to re-sign JT because there's no other options out there for them? In order to keep that position sort of solidified, at least for 2 or 3 more years until Tate or Taillep comes up. So if you have an opportunity at 26 with the best catcher in the draft still on the board, I think you got to seriously consider taking him. And I would definitely be on board with that. But tonight we're gonna pivot off of Luke Stevenson, and I'm going to throw out another player who could be there at 26 and who the Phillies could feasibly look at selecting. And we're going to start tonight with the pitcher, Kurt Schoolcraft. He's a dual threat right now in high school, Sunset High School in Oregon. He's a senior. Left-hand, or he was a senior. He's graduated probably by now, but left-hand pitcher / first baseman. Obviously, we're looking at the left-hand pitching aspect of him. Schoolcraft was originally slated to be part of the class of 2026, but he reclassified back in December of 23 to join this group. A legitimate two-way standout as a left-handed pitcher and first baseman, most teams likely prefer him on the hill after he excelled at events like the area code games over the summer, which was last year. He has a chance to be the next in line of Oregon prep arms to go in the first round, following first rounders Mick Abel in 2020 and Noble Meyer in 2023. Again, he comes from that same sort of pipeline out there in Oregon. He's 6'8". Jesus Christ. 6'8" on the mound in the batter's box. As a pitcher, He's up to 97 miles an hour in his fastball. And again, this scouting report was taken from him last summer. So he was 17 when he was throwing 97 miles an hour. With the only knock against it is a relative lack of spin and carry. So right now he can play a little straight. Well, obviously they're going to have to teach him how to get a little break to that. He can't be just throwing heat without any break. He's got a tight traditional 2-plane slider, throwing the low 80s, and has carry and teeth. And some believe his feel for spin with the pitch should allow him to add more velocity. So Kurt Schoolcraft, a 6'8" left-hander, who's throwing 97 miles an hour as a 17-year-old. In a draft that does not have much pitching, Seth Hernandez is the cream of the crop of this draft, and he'll be gone probably within the top 5. This draft is sort of devoid of pitching, so I don't know if Schoolcraft makes it down to the Phillies at 26, but if he is there, again, a 6'8" left-hander. Can you imagine that? Where you have time with, at 17, 18 years old. So interesting situation here. Do the Phillies potentially go for a catcher to sort of replenish that position group, or do they look at the more traditional pitching where everybody needs pitchers? But Kurt Schoolcraft is intriguing me at 6'8" and throwing 97 miles an hour as a 17-year-old. So there you go. And we're gonna profile a few of these guys as we get closer to the draft, maybe 1 or 2 a week. Tomorrow, I got another one coming up for you, an infielder, actually, and I'll explain my theory around why I want to select him. But there you go. So Luke Stevenson is my number 1 choice if I'm the Phillies right now. If I was creating the draft board for the Phillies in the first round, Luke Stevenson, the catcher, is my number 1 pick. He's not there. I'm going after the 6'8" behemoth left-hander Kurt Schoolcraft out of Oregon. Hopefully that maybe he doesn't take 6 years to develop like McAble did out of Oregon, but again, we got time. And then, as I said, we'll profile a little bit more of these players as we move through the rest of this. Joe Hale says Painter is not participating this year. I didn't see that. I saw he got selected. Did the Phillies sort of balk on that because of his injury status? Well, that's a shame. He should. Phillies need to go high for go for high patient selective high on base hitters, guys with average who are hitters first, high doubles hitters, 20 25 home run potential, Bobby Abreu type players with you. Absolutely. But are you talking about sort of drafting people, or are you talking about bringing people here via trade or free agency? But you're right either way. But you got to develop these players in order to hit that way, and that's. But I agree with you, Ryan. We need contact hitters, man. We need contact hitters. Mr. Type of pitcher. I don't know if that hitter is even exists anymore in baseball. The Bobby Abreu type of hitter. I don't know. That's a good question, Ryan Swope. Do they even exist? He says yes. Draft. Unfortunately, Ryan, when you're drafting a kid between the ages, let's face it, 18 and 21, right? That's sort of the draft years. You're getting a raw prospect, a kid with a lot of potential who's been coached at various levels of development throughout his life. But when you get selected by an MLB franchise, they're going to strip all that away and coach you up their way, professionally. Now, what they're looking for, obviously, is the potential that you can be what they want you to be. Now, unfortunately, with potential, a lot of times it goes unfulfilled. So I hear what you're saying. But don't forget, baseball as a sport has gone away from that type of hitter. There was a time in baseball, 10 years ago, for about a good 10, 15-year time frame, where it was all about exit velo and lift and velocity and what you were getting the ball off your bat at. They didn't care about your swing discipline. They didn't care about your mechanics and fundamentals. They didn't care about any of that. They just cared about extreme power. Just hit the ball. There was no science to teaching how to hit anymore. There was no developing younger players at lower levels on terms of how to hit. It was just get them through. It was all about power. there was a time where strikeouts didn't matter. And I think that time is still here, but I think we're coming out of it a little bit. I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel here, because now there's more of an influence that I've seen in my lower level of working baseball, college and into high school levels. There's more attention being paid into situational hitting now and contact hitting and bunting, for God's sakes. I did a game tonight, man. 9 bunts were laid down in that game. And this was a American Legion seniors game, like 18, 19-year-old kids. And they did it pretty effectively too. So I don't necessarily blame the players essentially for what's happened to the sport. I blame the way they were being coached for a very long period of time because of stupid ass analytics and all that. So I think we're coming sort of spinning around a little bit now and heading back down that road. I don't know how far up that road will be, but the science of hitting sort of suffered over the last 10 years. And now I think it's starting to come back a little bit. And it's going to be rough because the coaches at the major league level, and we can talk Kevin Long all day long right now. Kevin Long is a product of the new school of hitting. It's all about exit velo and lift and getting the ball out. It's nothing to do with situational protecting, defensive hitting. It's about crushing the damn thing. And he's not alone. That's the majority of hitting coaches around baseball at all levels. So now you got to not only get them out of there, because you got to start getting guys in that are more sort of hybrid, where they can be more, they can use analytics and all that exit velo crap too, but they're going to start teaching more fundamentals of hitting. And sort of weeding out those coaches is going to be a long process. So maybe that's where the Phillies are suffering too. Maybe they have a hitting coach that doesn't know how to teach hitting fundamentals. But I get your point. But the question about the Bobby Abreu style of hitting or the Bobby Abreu type of player, does that player even exist in 2025? I mean, let's be honest. Does he? And if he does, it's like 1 out of a million. Baseball has underwent a revolution, a terrible revolution, as it comes to the de-evaluation of hitting fundamentals and mechanics. And now I think they're figuring that they went a little bit too far one side, and they're trying to come back a little bit. And I think they're going to try to marry both the analytics side and the fundamental side. And if you can find a coach that can do that, you can find a coach who can coach both sides of that, that's a hitting coach right now. And that's the modern hitting coach. But the people that are doing it now and the hitters that are in it now, they might be lost causes. And baseball might be undergoing another revolution. But it's going to take some time. So we got to wait and see. I like guys who hit 40 or 45 home runs with 20 home run potential, 2 times the amount of doubles to home runs. Abreu nearly was 2 doubles short from hitting exactly 2 times the amount of doubles to home runs for a career, still hit for plenty. Yes, again, but that was 15 years ago. Hell, it was even longer than that, wasn't it? And Bobby Abreu is still not in the damn Hall of Fame. No, he was a hell of a hitter. But does that hitter exist anymore in this modern, current era of baseball? Thank you, Joe. No, we're not done yet. I got another segment to do. Let's get it in. It's my favorite segment. I live for it. I haven't done it since like forever. But you guys know what it is. Yeah. It is MattyB's card review. The time of the night where we sit down and we discuss sports cards. One of my passions in life. Give you an update for those of you that care who have been listening for the last year. About a year ago now, I took a lifelong collection of sports cards that I had, along with my stepson's collection that dwarfed mine, for God's sakes. I don't know how the hell he picked up all these cards at the age of 14. But my collection was like minuscule compared to his. And I combined the 2 collections, and then I've set out on an adventure of organizing and cataloging all of these cards. And phase one was completed about 3 months after I started, and that consisted of taking all the cards that had value. Now, value is defined in many different ways. It's financial value, it's emotional value, nostalgic value, all those things. Like, there's no reason why I should have a Von Hayes card set aside in a place of reverence, like in a binder, because Von Hayes' cards are not worth a damn thing financially, but they're worth something to me through nostalgia. And I'm using Von Hayes as an as a sort of an example. I'm not saying that I've done that with a Von Hayes card, but I've done this. There's many cards that are kind of like that. But I took all the baseball cards that didn't have value and I put them in individual team boxes. So you got say, for example, you got a Phillies box that's consisting of baseball cards of the Phillies, of Phillies players from various periods of history and time. I took all the cards that had value and I segregated them into binders. 6 of them to be precise. So I separated all that, and then I've gone through since then, and I've been putting these cards that are in these binders on this database in order to sort of get them all under control. And I'm almost done doing that. I've gone through 6 binders of cards, over 4,000 baseball, football, hockey cards and basketball cards over the last 3 months, getting these cards up in this database. It has been a painstaking process, and in this process, of course, I pull cards on a nightly basis, and we just have some fun talking about them here on the program. And tonight, we're in baseball. We're not 87 tops, so feel yourself lucky that you landed on a night that's not featuring the 87 tops. We're in the 90s tonight. That's right. We're in 1992. Dunross. Of course, Dunross was a company that no longer makes baseball cards, but was somewhat of a heavy hitter in the baseball card world in the 80s and 90s, trying desperately to stay toe-to-toe with Topps, but they couldn't. But we're going to talk about a 1992 Dunross card tonight of a player who somewhat is misunderstood. Maybe got caught up in the era that he played in, but was a hell of a baseball player for a very long period of time, made up a very interesting, was one half of a duo of players known as the Killer Bees for the Houston Astros. And I speak of course, catcher / second baseman / left fielder Craig Biggio. And this is his 1992 Dunross card. Biggio, of course, along with Bagwell, the Killer Bees of the last great era of Houston Astro baseball. Played his entire MLB career from 1988 through 2007 for the Houston Astros, was a member of the 2005 Astro World Championship, 7-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove winner, 5-time Silver Slug Award winner, Silver Slugger Award winner, the Roberto Clemente winner in 07, NL stolen base leader in 94, has his number 7 jersey retired by the Houston Astros, is a member of the Houston Astros Hall of Fame, and of course is also a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame, inducted in 2015 with an 82.7% of the vote. Broke in as a catcher, but then moved around very seamlessly throughout his career along the Houston Astro field, second base, outfield, all over the place. Was a hell of a player. 281 career lifetime batting average, 3,060 hits, 291 RBIs, 1,100, almost 1,200 runs batted in, and 414 career stolen bases for Biggio throughout his career. I hated him for obvious reasons because he was a killer. One of the best players, I think, in that 90s era. Now, whether or not he was using steroids or not, that's debatable. I'm not going to get into all that, but there's some criticism circulating around throughout his career. But this baseball card, as a PSA 9, is a value of about $40. Now, this is not a hot era of Craig Biggio. This is a 92. It's not his rookie card. It's not his World Series year card. This is a 1992 friggin' Dunross. But I've seen this card graded as a PSA 9 going for about $40, which is very impressive for a wax era card in a non-specific year, 92 for Craig Biggio. But non-graded, I found this card ranging anywhere between $1.50 and $2. But if you happen to find yourself in possession of this card and you feel that it's in good shape, I recommend you sending it off to PSA or any one of those agencies that grade baseball cards, and you might be very happy with what your results are. Because again, as I said, I saw this card for $40 as a PSA 9, and here's mine. And I have a very good version of this card. It's got good cutting, good centering, very good. There's no deficiencies with the picture. There's no fading. The edges are sharp. I might be sitting on a PSA 9. So I could be sitting on a potential $40 baseball card seemingly out of nowhere. Again, a 1992 Dunross Craig Biggio. Nothing really awe-inspiring about this card at all. But for a Hall of Famer and one of the best players in Houston Astro history, one half of the Killer Bees, there you go. My 1992 Dunross Craig Biggio. That was fun, right? It's really kind of hard. It's kind of hard to talk about a card that just has no, it's not a Bonds rookie. It's not Griffey's rookie. It's not, you're not sitting on a Pete Rose rookie. It's the Craig Biggio 92 Dunross. But you're looking at a $40 baseball card. So pretty good stuff. But there you go. There's our card review tonight of the 92 Craig Biggio. Again, the card in itself, it's no frills. So that was Dunross, right? And that was Dunross in 92. No frills, no flash and mirrors, no fanciness, just a upfront in your face baseball card. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Dunross went out of business. But there you have it. The 1992 Craig Biggio Dunross. And that is MattyB's card review of the night. That's going to take us to the end. We made it to an end of another show. I made it through a second straight show. First time in a while that I've gone back to back for a show that's advertised to be on 4 nights out of the week. And I want to thank the patience of you out there that have endured that with me. And I like to tell you that the dark days are over, but I'd be lying to you. I'm going to be very vigilant this week. I'm not going to do a show Wednesday. I'm going to Toronto on Wednesday. I'm going to actually catch a Yankees-Blue Jays game. I want to say the Sky Dome, but it's not Sky Dome anymore. It's the Rogers Center. Wherever the Blue Jays play, whatever it's called, I will be in attendance for the game between the Blue Jays and the Yankees in Toronto on Wednesday night. So no show Wednesday. There will be a show tomorrow. No show Wednesday, and there will be a show Thursday. So, but then next week, unfortunately, we're right back in the shoot. My schedule kicks right back up. And that's the way it's going to be for the rest of the summer. So it's going to be hit or miss from that point on. But I'm going to do I'm going to do better. I'm going to try to do better. But yeah, this week should be pretty intact. I guarantee you a show tomorrow, and I guarantee you a show on Thursday. No show on Wednesday, as I won't be in town. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But we're trying to work through it. I'm trying to work through it. And again, I apologize for not opening the phone lines. They will be opened. You guys got to keep me on point with that. You got to remind me, open the phone lines, because that is the new part of this show, is where we will take calls from anybody. All you need is an ability to speak to me, some sort of audio capability. You don't need a camera. You just need to be able to speak. So I will open up the phone lines tomorrow, but you got to keep me honest. You got to keep me on task. Tell me to do it if I forget. But good show. Didn't really get much back into the Flyers draft. Did talk a lot about the Phillies tonight. Did talk about their obviously Dante Nori was our spotlight player or spotlight of the night. We discussed some Phillies possible draft targets: Luke Stevenson and Kurt Schoolcraft, 2 players that would be intriguing if they were available at 26 in this year's draft. And we'll get into some more of those players as we move through the rest of the weeks heading up to the All-Star game and the draft. And we just had some fun with the card of the night. So, and of course, your night in Philadelphia sports history, the day Eric Lindros was traded to the Flyers for a king's ransom that affected both franchises drastically. So, a good show. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and remind you that we are all over the place here on the Instagram Sports Network. Literally, Pat had you tonight on the Fight's Final. Tomorrow will be Steve Fuentes and then Mike Laro on Wednesday. So make sure you're tuned in to the Fight's Final immediately following every Phillies game, and then all the other programming here on the network, to include their wraparound here, my show, the Attacking Third, PM in the AM, the wraparound, and starting this fall, that's right, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will return as we are, 60 days away? Is that true? About 60 days away from the start of the NFL season? Does it seem possible? Here's my problem with that. In September, when football starts, that means baseball is pretty much done. Right. And I know the best is yet to come with baseball when it comes to the postseason. But for the most part, in September, baseball's over. So it's sort of a bittersweet thing. I got to get to the end of the baseball season in order to start the football season. But obviously, with the season defending Super Bowl champions, it's going to be a fun run through the NFL this year. Can't wait. Can't wait for that. Can't wait to start talking about Jalen Hurts again. Oh, yeah, I miss that. But the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn will be back. Your quintessential and Eagle pregame. And we do have some other shows coming. Matter of fact, we have at least one, two, three. And if you want to count Clear the Ice when that comes back for the Flyers this fall, 4. We have 3 brand new shows getting ready to debut here on the network over the course of the next 3 or 4 months. And then we'll have, of course, we'll come back with the Flyers postgame when it's applicable. And I still owe you a Flyers season review show from last year. We're working on that. And I got some time. July 1st is coming. We haven't really made major moves. Let's wait till some moves are made. Maybe we'll have the show, but we will do that very soon. But yeah, we got 4 shows, 3 brand new ones, and then they Clear the Ice coming back in the fall. So things are starting to move for the network in a positive way. So make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing. You're staying tuned, and you're ready to help us out. So I appreciate all that. And you guys have a great rest of your night and even better tomorrow. We will talk tomorrow immediately following the Phillies game here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. You guys have a great night.